Good morning, everyone. Today is August the 11th, 2021. It's about 9:06 in the morning. This is going to be a hard video for me. I already know because of just the emotions that are going on in my body right now. As I'm walking over here to do this video and just thinking about what God has put on my heart to share, a strong breeze for just a few seconds, comes out of nowhere. I mean, it's like really, really hot. The humidity is extremely high right now, and there's no breeze at all while I'm walking over here until I started thinking about making this video. And a breeze just starts blowing into my face. And as I'm thinking about making this video and what God is wanting me to say, when a breeze hits me like that, when I'm having thoughts about what God is revealing to me or what He wants me to say to you guys or to someone else, and a breeze hits me, I know that's the breath of God on me when that happens, and it's really, really cool when that happens. So here's my question to you guys. Have you ever been to God's school? We go to we start in first grade and we go all the way through the 12th grade, and most people that go to school does not like school, but after a period of time, you know that school is going to end, which is 12th grade. And then if you choose to go to college, if you already know what you're wanting to do, you already know that it's going to be somewhere between, if you go to college and get a degree, you know that it's going to be somewhere between 2 and 12 years. 2 being like a junior or community college, and 12 years something like a doctor. So after high school, there's 12 years. And if you want to be a doctor, which is typically a very smart person, I would say, very knowledgeable, that's another 12 years roughly. Okay, so that's 24 years of school. And there's times in there that you struggle and wish you wasn't doing it. and that sort of thing. Or there's no money, or especially when you get to college and that sort, that kind of thing. If you're out on your own, most of the time we're providing for ourselves, or you've got a scholarship or something. But my question is, how long does God's school last? Is it 12 years? Is it 24 years? Is it 1 year? Is it a lifetime? I think a lot of it has to do with the person. Sorry, I'm having my cup of joe right now, too. As I'm making this video. The hardest part of God's school is getting rid of the distractions in your life that cause you not to listen to Him. And those distractions come in many forms and fashions. That I don't know your circumstances and you don't know mine. But if God leads me to it, I'm going to share a part of very, very, very hard part of my testimony. Which is God's school. I guess the main thing about God's school is that I've come to realize that it's not easy. In first grade, you learn your alphabet and numbers, like 1 through 10, or something like that. And it's been a little while since I've done it, since I'm 50 years old now. And then you learn your alphabet, and then you start learning how to draw each number out and each letter out, and how to capitalize your letters, and how to make a small letter in print. And when I was in 3rd, 4th grade, learned cursive writing, which is a continuous line, basically, a squiggly line. But I don't think they're doing that now in schools. And in first grade, if you look back at it, it's not that hard. But when you go to God's school, let's take Abraham for an example. Abraham, God came to him one day and told him to leave the land. And Abraham was questioning where to go, And God said, just go and I'll tell you. You know, that's hard to do. That's very, very difficult to for him to, you know, I can imagine that it was just horrible. That, you know, the first time God speaks to you that the Bible talks about, it's about leaving the land that you live in. And according to what the Bible says, he was a pretty wealthy guy. You know? And the thing is also that he didn't know God until that time. And guys, this is so funny. I mean, it's been dead still with the breeze. And as I'm starting to talk about Abraham and God's school, a breeze just starts blowing, and I can feel it right now. You may be able to see the trees, leaves in the background starting to move. That's just so cool, which just, again, just tells me that God is all over this video as I'm making it. You know, and the words that I'm talking about, he's going, all right, this is what I want you to say. Well, God gets his nephew, because he doesn't have a son, to go with him. And he does, for a time. But then Lot goes his own way. And then God comes to him again and tells him, you're going to have a son. And then his wife leads Abraham astray and telling Abraham, you know, I'm too old to have a child. Go have sex with Hagar so you can basically fulfill what God has told you, you know. Which was totally wrong, you know. Abraham listened to his wife, which is someone other than God, and didn't wait on God, is the point I'm making here. And instead of listening to God, he chose a more natural way of doing things in his time, and trying to force what God had promised him. Well, it turns out after this is funny. I just realized this that first grade through high school is 12 years. Okay. Then I was talking about being a doctor is 24 years. This is really funny. In the 24th year, after God had told him that you're going to father the nation, he comes to Sarah and him and says, this time next year, you're going to have a son, which is the 25th year. But it took 24 years of the school that God put Abraham in before it happened. First through 12th grade, 12 years. College, first year to the last year of a doctor, 12 years. That's 24 years. That's kind of funny. Excuse me. Anyway, so Isaac comes along. And then, he becomes a young boy. And then God tells him to go and sacrifice his son. And at the last minute, he provides the lamb or the ram to replace Isaac as Abraham has the knife drawn back and is about to kill his only son. And the whole time, Abraham's going, God, how is this going to happen if you are going to make me kill my son as a sacrifice? How am I going to father the nations? Because Ishmael, Hagar's son, God had already sent off Hagar and Ishmael into the wilderness and told Abraham they're going to be okay. Well, all of that is just part of God's school. Are you going to listen to me? Or are you going to do what you want to do? Are you going to listen to the invisible God that is directing your path each day of your life in His school, in His time, in His way? Are you going to listen to all of your human reasoning, all of the circle of people that's around you, and every fiber of your body say, no, don't do that? And God's saying, do it. No matter what, do it. No matter how hard or what your thoughts are, do it. And then after that event happens, you continually get questioned about, why did you do that? Why did you do that? Guys, I'm going to share something with you that I feel like God is wanting me to share. That happened 2 years ago on August the 4th. I'll never forget that day. I'm on my way to take my 5 little girls that were 11 to 4 years old back to their mom. I'm not going to talk about the things that had happened before that led up to this moment, but I'm just going to talk about this moment. Now, this was it's like an hour and 45-minute drive for me to take my 5 little girls to where I'd drop them off to meet their mom, because she lives 4 hours away from me, or it may have been 2 hours. I think it was 2 hours. just after I got on the interstate, a vehicle that had 746 on the tag got on the interstate right in front of me, and I passed it. Well, I have to change interstates. And that same vehicle passes me again after I change interstates. And I end up passing it back. So that's 2 times that I've seen this vehicle. And then some 40 miles or so before I get to where I'm supposed to drop the girls off, this same vehicle passes me for a 3rd time. Okay? And at that point, I go, okay, God, what are you trying to tell me? What are you trying to tell me? So I had this Bible with me right here. And I look up page 746, and there it is right there. All of the notes that I've got written on that page. And this whole page is the whole chapter from start to finish of the 31st chapter of Proverbs. And I'm going, God, what are you trying to show me about a wife of noble character? But the first 9 verses doesn't talk about the wife of the noble character. Okay? I'm going to read verse 8 and 9 of chapter 31. Okay? It says, "Speak up for those who cannot speak for themselves. Ensure justice for those being crushed. Yes, speak up for the poor and helpless and see that they get justice." And I went, oh my goodness. Because of the events that had led up to that day, I knew that's what God was talking to me about my 5 little girls. Okay? So, right after that, I pray to God. And I'm in tears when I'm praying this. I say, God, show me a 3:19. And I said, just show me one 3:19, which is one of those verses I just read in Proverbs 31, 8 and 9. I said, show me one of those, and I won't take them back today. I can't remember if it was right before or right after I read that in my Bible right there. I saw 777, which I knew that was what God was telling me. I think it was right after I had read it. I see the 777, and then I say the prayer about the 3:19. Well, we've got to stop for a potty break, and it's about 20 miles before we get to where I'm supposed to drop them off. And I walk in the store, me and those 5 little girls, and we all go to the bathroom. So I'm waiting on them to come out of the bathroom. And something in the cooler catches my eye. So I walk over to the cooler while I'm waiting on them. And and I start looking at the prices of the drinks in the cooler. And they come out, and I go I guess it's probably 10 or 15 feet long, and I go up and down looking for this $3.19, because up until this point, I haven't seen the $3.19 that I asked God, are you want me to take the girls back or not? Because if I see it, I'm not going to take them back. If I don't see it, I'm going to continue to to travel, and I have to throw this in here. Everybody in my family said, you got to take them back. You're going to get in trouble with the court if you don't. Me and my ex-wife are divorced, and there was a nasty divorce and whole 9 yards. And that's how she got to move 4 hours away, because the divorce happened here where we had already been living. And I get all the way to the end of the cooler, and I look up kind of just above eye level or right at eye level, and there's these sandwiches. And I had been searching for probably 3 or 4 minutes, and I haven't seen the $3.19. And these 5 sandwiches are up here. 5 different flavors of sandwiches. And the price of each one of those sandwiches is $3.19. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 5 sandwiches that had the price of $3.19 on it. And I have 5 little girls. A $3.19 for every one of my 5 little girls. I just broke out into tears, and I'm going, oh my gosh. See, the crazy part about it is, I didn't even realize the 5 $3.19s and the 5 girls. My wife at the time was my girlfriend. She pointed that out to me the next day while me and her talking about this as I'm driving down the road, and she said, Melvin, you saw 5 $3.19s and you have 5 girls. That was 1 $3.19 for every one of your girls. And I went, oh my goodness. Well, what I've also come to realize, the number 5 is grace. That's the number of grace in the Bible. And I went, oh my goodness. So today is August the 11th, and I'm reading my Streams in the Desert devotional. And I made a note on that devotional because of something that was written in that devotional. And it was something like, the grace of God. This is funny. The grace of God. We don't experience the grace of God because we're not willing. We don't experience the grace of God because we're always in the visible. We're not listening to God in the invisible. In other words, we're not listening to God so closely like Abraham did. To the point that he had a knife drawn back and he was about to kill Isaac as a sacrifice for God. And, we don't do that as a people, as a human race. We've gone so far away from the school of God. We don't listen to him and go through that school that he's trying to teach us in our individual lives about something that he's trying to teach us about, so that we can be the servant that God wants us to be. He's willing. He wants us to see if we're willing to sacrifice everything for him, to serve him. Now, I'm not saying that everybody that is watching this video or ever will watch this video has to do what God called me personally to do. I read that devotional and I realized this morning. What I talked about on August the 4th, what happened that afternoon in that devotional I read 2 years ago, is August 11th. And what I'm talking about that devotional saying is 7 days after that event happened with the 319s. That's God's number. See, I chose to listen to God. I chose to listen to what God was telling me through a very unusual way. Instead of listening to my mom, my dad, my sister and her husband, and my girlfriend at the time, and because of listening to God that day, that was August the 4th of 2019. March 18th, 2020 comes, which is the last day I've seen my 5 little girls in person. So it's been, a year and, May is 14 months, 15, 16, almost 17 months. Almost 17 months. Oh, gosh. the 18th of this month will be 17 months. And today's the 11th of August of 2019. That's 7 days from right now. Oh gosh. Guys, that was the hardest thing I've ever done in my life. Because I knew that everything was going to be stacked against me from that point on. About getting to see my girls. And I knew that I would be taking a chance on not ever laying eyes on them or giving them a hug in person ever again. But I know without a shadow of a doubt, God told me to do it. It was so clear, and still it is today. Man, that's so painful to even think about. Ooh. You know, and what makes it even harder is when your oldest child, after you've done something for God like that, and that wasn't the only time that God told me to do something that went against what my human nature said. When it comes to my girls. But when your oldest child says to you, Daddy, why didn't you just take us back? Man, that's tough. You know at that point that she's suffering a great deal, and so is her sisters. And you go, and you think to yourself, sweetheart, if I could only tell you what God has told me, you wouldn't believe it. So we're just over 4 years of when God told me to do this. And I can tell you event after event after event after event of dates that God gave me in advance. And they came true. Something happened on those dates that I didn't put together. I didn't have any part in putting it together. You know, down to the filing of things happening. Of when my ex-wife's attorney filed something, and then the next day the judge signs off on what they filed. I mean, it's astonishing. Just those little things like that. God tells me that I've got this. know, I wouldn't wish any of those events that's happened to me and my 5 little girls on anybody. But I'll say this, I wouldn't trade any of it now to this very day, August 11th of 2021 for anything. Even though I miss my right now at this very minute and wrap my arms around them and tell them I love them. I wouldn't trade my relationship with God for any of that. And I know that's hard to understand in a human sense. And I'm not gonna lie, there's some days that are horrible with the thoughts of not ever getting to see them again. But as horrible as that is, I would rather not see them again and be able to see God in heaven because I was obedient to Him when He said do it and not waited. You know, right now, I can't tell you the reason the reason for why God told me to do that, other than getting to share this with you just over 2 years later and realizing that God has me in a school that's going to take a lifetime to get through. You know, I was listening to someone yesterday on YouTube, and he said that Paul was beaten 5 times. 5 different times. 39 whipping lashes each time. And 40 is the point of death. If you do it 40 times, the way they did it back then, the person dies. And they did it 39 times, 5 different times. And he never died. One time, he was at the point of death, and they thought he had died. And here's that number 5 again. 5 times Paul was beaten. There's God's grace again on Paul. Guys, I don't really know what else to say. But I challenge you to go to God's school. Even though I'm sitting here not getting to see my girls right now for almost 17 months already. challenge you to go to God's school and learn from God so that you can serve Him in whatever way it is that He's wanting you to serve Him. I promise you, it's the most, gosh, I know I'm in tears right now and it doesn't make sense, but it's the most peaceful and joyful school that you'll ever be a part of. And right now, that wind had died down, and now I feel the light breeze on my back right now. That's just God reaching up and saying, "Son, you're right here with me. You're with me. And you've done what I wanted you to do to this point. Just keep going." Woo. Friends, it's not easy. I'm not going to lie to you. But if you want to experience a holy God, you've got to go to God's school. And there's no way they don't expect God's school to learn God's ways. And when you, when you start going to God's school, it'll change your life. And you may have to give up kids, a spouse, a job, or whatever, or all of the above, to get into God's school, or to continue in God's school. But it's well worth it. It really is. Guys, I'm going to continue to enjoy the rest of my coffee that I've probably let get cold mostly at this point. But I just want you to know, I invite you to go to God's school. You'll learn a lot going to high school and to college, but it won't be what God teaches. Not even close. Not even going to a Bible college. You won't learn this. There's no way. I know too many people that have gone to Bible colleges and they have not learned this kind of stuff. Guys, I'm going to get off of this video now. And I hope that what God has told me to share with you guys helps someone in the future, or even this very day. Thank you so much, God. Thank you, thank you, thank you. In your precious Son's name, Jesus, amen.